Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. And Dynamite tonight, of course, was from Daily's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. And we are on the road to Fyter Fest, which is happening in 2 weeks. It's going to take place on July 1st and also on July 8th. So it's going to be a 2-week special event for Fyter Fest on Dynamite. And July 1st, they're actually going to go live for Fyter Fest. And then on July 8th, it's going to be a tape show. Like after they do the live show, they're actually going to tape the second week of Fyter Fest. So that's going to be pretty cool. Looking forward to Fyter Fest. The card for it already is building up to be a good one. And the build-up has been awesome. And Dynamite tonight, it delivered another entertaining show. It was a good show tonight. Tonight we saw Hangman and Page and Kenny Omega versus QT Marshall and Dustin Rhodes, and the AEW World Tag Team Championship was on the line. We saw Anna Jay in action, and we also saw MJF versus Billy Gunn. And in the main event, we saw Sammy Guevara and Jericho versus the Best Friends, Chucky T and Trent. And the winners of that match will get to have a shot at Omega and Page for the AEW World Tag Team Championships at Fyter Fest. And then we also had Cody having another open challenge where the TNT Championship, of course, was on the line. But like I said, Dynamite tonight was a very entertaining show. They keep on delivering good shows every single week. They're keeping up the pace. But let's get on with the review. So Dynamite kicked off tonight with Hangman and Page and Kenny Omega, the AEW World Tag Team Champions, versus Dustin, Rhodes, and QT Marshall. Of course, they were out there along with Brandy Rhodes. And this was an entertaining match. This was a very good match from these guys. You had Kenny Omega and Dustin starting off the match. Omega went early to hit the one-winged angel on Dustin, but Dustin ended up coming back and delivered a back elbow to Kenny Omega. And we had Kenny Omega hitting a Hurricanrana on Dustin, which was awesome. It was a cool Hurricanrana. And Kenny Omega ended up shaking Dustin's hand. And Page and QT Marshall end up getting in the ring. QT took control here, making some moves on Page. And then we had QT taking a boot to the face from Page. Page delivers some chops to QT, and Dustin Rhodes and Kenny Omega end up coming in. Dustin ended up dropping Omega, started taking control of the match. QT Marshall ended up coming back in, delivered a Russian leg sweep to Omega. And it cut to the crowd. And we saw Britt Baker here. She was with Reba, of course, on the Rolls Royce. And Britt Baker was shown attaching notes to a string. And she ended up sending it up to the commentary table. and she lets Tony Schiavone. I guess Tony Schiavone was reading it, and she ends up letting Tony that she doesn't like his green tie that he's wearing. So Dustin ended up continuing to beat up on Kenny Omega, and he delivered a back body drop. Dustin delivered a back body drop to Omega. And at the end of the match, you had Page and Omega hit the V-trigger buckshot lariat to QT Marshall. And there you go. Kenny Omega and Hangman and Page end up winning the match, retaining the AEW World Tag Team Championship. And overall, like I said, it was a very good tag team match. Both of these teams gave it all they got. And then it was announced tonight that, of course, Cody will defend the TNT Championship against someone outside of AEW, someone who is, a talent in the Indies and a free agent on the Indies. And then it was announced that it was going to be Billy Gunn. Well, they're calling him Billy here. So it was Billy versus MJF. And then Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc versus the Young Bucks. And then Best Friends versus Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho, which was the main event. So they announced that. And so Dynamite went to commercial. Then when Dynamite came back from the commercial, we had Anna Jay cut a promo. She ended up talking about how she first got into wrestling when she was younger. She ended up saying that once she got signed to AEW, she realized she had to work 10 times harder. And she ended up saying that she wants to put on a show and give something the fans will remember. In which, they ended up calling her the star of the show. So it was a little promo from Anna Jay. Really enjoyed it. We got to know her a little bit from this promo. This development there. And then she had a match. So it was Anna Jay versus Abaddon. I think that's how you pronounce her name. But Abaddon is, crazy. She's a crazy, wrestler here, where her gimmick looks like something that came out of a horror movie. It had, creepiness to it. But I really liked Abaddon's entrance. But this was a short match. Abaddon, this was her first, Dynamite appearance. I know she made an appearance on AEW Dark, which I don't watch Dark. But the match ended up starting. Abaddon ended up hitting a double leg takedown on Anna Jay. And Anna Jay ended up coming back, delivering some forearms. Abaddon ended up hitting a clothesline to Anna Jay. She ended up choking her over the middle rope. And Abaddon ended up hitting a step up hurricanrana on Anna Jay. She went for the cover. And there you go. Abaddon ended up winning the match. And I forgot who it was on commentary, but it was really funny. And they ended up saying that Britt Baker said about Abaddon that this broad needs to find Jesus, which I laughed hysterically at. that was really funny. Because, if you see Abaddon, or if you watched Dynamite tonight and saw Abaddon, you'll probably understand why Britt Baker said that. But yeah, really would like to see more of Abaddon. Very interesting, character gimmick with her. It's her character is like something coming out of a horror film. But overall, it was a short match. And then we had post-match. We had the commentary team, Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur. They were putting Abaddon over as a bit of an upset. And Abaddon, after Dynamite ended tonight, it was announced that she is signed with AEW. So that was a little bit of news. So we saw Anna Jay ends up laying up in the ring. Brody Lee of the Dark Order, the Exalted One, made his way to the stage. And Colt Cabana was down there. He was looking on. Stu Grayson ended up getting in Private Party's face. And Evil Uno ends up handing over an envelope to Colt Cabana. So Colt Cabana ends up reading it over. And he looked at Brody Lee. And who knows what this envelope is? Maybe, it's an offer for Colt Cabana to join the Dark Order. So we saw the Dark Order end up helping Anna Jay out of the ring. Brody Lee ended up taking Anna Jay's hand. And they all went to the back. And Colt Cabana was there. He had like a confused look on his face. So I guess that envelope maybe is some kind of offer for Colt Cabana to join the Dark Order. But who knows if he's going to join the Dark Order. But we had that. And then we had Billy versus MJF. Billy came out, of course, with Austin Gunn. MJF, of course, with Wardlow. And this was a decent match. You had MJF standing tall in the match. He tried to Irish whip Billy, but Billy didn't go anywhere. And MJF ended up hitting a thumb to the eye to Billy. And MJF then ended up eating a boot from Billy. MJF ended up heading up to the stage and started walking away to the back. Billy went after him and he carried MJF all the way back to the ring. He ended up sending MJF in the ring. And MJF ended up trying to drape Billy over the top rope. Billy ended up blocking it. And then MJF ended up reversing it and did a little taunting to Billy. And at the end of the match, you had MJF and, he was throwing punches. And Billy ended up doing a tilt-a-whirl slam on MJF, which was pretty cool. And MJF was arguing with referee Aubrey Edwards. MJF ended up getting in her face. Billy ended up hitting the Famouser. He goes for the pin. Wardlow was shown up on the apron. He got on the ring apron, trying to distract Billy. And then we see Wardlow ends up tossing the Dynamite ring, the AEW Dynamite ring, to MJF. So Billy ends up throwing Wardlow into the barricade, and sorry about that, but I was saying Billy ended up throwing Wardlow into the barricade. MJF ended up waiting for Billy to get back into the ring. And as Billy got back into the ring, MJF ended up punching Billy in the face with the Dynamite ring. So MJF got the pin, and he won the match. And post-match, Jungle Boy, who's in the crowd at ringside, he didn't appreciate what MJF did to Billy. Him and MJF end up starting to talk trash. MJF and Wardlow began brawling with the Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy, Marco Stunt, and Luchasaurus. And they came out, started beating up on MJF and Wardlow. Other stars there tried to break up the brawl between them. And we had two referees end up coming from the back to try to break them up even more. And that was basically that. But overall, decent match between MJF and Billy. I like seeing Billy Gunn in the ring. At his age, he could still, move. It was good seeing him compete. Then we went backstage, and Alex Marvez was interviewing Jericho and Guevara about their attack last week on Orange Cassidy. If you remember last week, the Inner Circle ended up being down on Orange Cassidy. Jericho ended up busting him open, bleeding. They ended up hitting Orange Cassidy with a sack of oranges. So Jericho ended up telling Marvez that everybody loves Orange Cassidy. He ended up saying that he doesn't care about anything. He ended up saying that Orange Cassidy ended up interrupting the Inner Circle twice, and that there's nothing funny about that. Sammy Guevara ended up saying that they beat him to a pulp. Jericho then also said that they are going to do the same thing to the Best Friends so that they can get a crack at the World Tag Team Championship. So that was the interview with Jericho and Guevara. We're going to be seeing, we saw them in the main event where they took on the Best Friends. And then we had Tony Schiavone. He was talking with Britt Baker, still injured. Britt Baker, still in the wheelchair, on the back of the Rolls Royce. So Tony Schiavone ended up saying that Hikaru Shida will defend the AEW Women's World Championship against Penelope Ford at Fyter Fest. There you go. We have another match set for Fyter Fest. Hikaru Shida versus Penelope Ford. So when Tony Schiavone ended up announcing that, Britt Baker was not happy. And that's why, Tony Schiavone ended up coming down to her. So Britt Baker ended up saying that Tony is in a lot of shit for losing the interview. So Britt Baker ends up saying, "Oh, Tony, you're on a friend timeout." So Britt Baker was not having this. She was going to leave. Britt Baker ends up telling Reba to drive her out of here, to drive her out of the Daly's place. So then we had the camera swings around, and it's not Reba in the driver's seat of the Rolls Royce. it was Big Swole. Big Swole was in the driver's seat, and Big Swole ended up saying, "Where to, doctor?" And so Big Swole ended up driving off. Britt Baker was screaming. And so that was basically what happened, though. But it was pretty funny. And I know that they sort of ripped that off with the segment where The Undertaker was driving a limo, ends up turning around, and Teddy Long was in the back of the limo. And The Undertaker ended up going, "Where to, Teddy?" So that's where AEW got this from, with Big Swole and Britt Baker that we saw tonight. They got it from, The Undertaker and Teddy Long segment. Overall, it was pretty funny. So then after that, we had Cody come out. Cody came out along with, of course, Arn Anderson for the TNT Championship Open Challenge. And Cody was on the mic, and he ended up wondering after last week's attack, he wondered if he was in the Elite or if the Nightmare family is even a family anymore. So he hands the mic over to Arn Anderson. Arn Anderson ended up saying that he knows Cody believes he can beat Jake Hager. But he also knows timing is everything. And the timing is just not right. So Jake Hager was shown watching from the back. And Arn ended up saying that he's got someone who Cody can hone his skills with. So both Cody and Arn Anderson, look to the screen. And we see Ricky Starks. He's a free agent. He competed on the Indies. Don't know too much about this guy. But he introduced himself. He ended up saying once he heard about the Open Challenge, he thought this was the perfect way to get his opportunity. Ricky ended up saying that he slept on floors and has been broke. He said that he's got grit, and he knows Cody knows something about that, and that he's ready for a fight. So out came Ricky Starks, and the match got underway. Cody versus Ricky Starks with the TNT Championship on the line. And this was a very good match. Seeing Ricky Starks here, like I said, don't know too much about this guy, but with him competing with Cody tonight in this match, he is a really good superstar in the ring. And after Dynamite was over, this was another one that they signed. Ricky Starks was another one that AEW signed. So that's pretty cool. I mean, the guy was impressive in this match with Cody. So the match got underway. Cody ended up dropping Starks. And Cody ended up doing his uppercut. And Starks came back and slapped Cody in the face. Cody ended up swinging away at Starks. Cody delivered a drop kick. He sent Starks to the floor. Cody nailed Starks with a suicide dive. And Hager was still shown continuing to watch from the back. So we went back to the ring, Cody and Starks. Cody ended up charging at Starks. Starks ended up launching Cody into the ring ropes and followed with some punches and a leg drop on the ring apron. He then delivered a swinging DDT to Cody, went for the cover. Cody kicked out at 2. And at the end of the match, you had Cody end up delivering the crossroads to Starks, went for the cover, There you go. Cody ended up winning the match and retaining the TNT Championship. Post-match, Cody ended up shaking hands with Starks, and he headed out of the ring, and that was basically that. But overall, this was a very good match. Ricky Starks was impressive in this match. He did good against Cody. Really surprised me because I haven't seen this guy wrestle in the Indies before. So really glad that AEW has signed him after this match. But hopefully we'll continue to see more of Ricky Starks. But overall, very good match. Then we had Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian versus the Young Bucks. Of course, Kip Sabian came out with Penelope Ford, his fiance, and this was a good match, in my opinion. You had the Young Bucks started off doing a couple double team moves on Havoc and Sabian. Butcher and the Blade were talking trash to Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks from ringside. And the Butcher and the Blade, I don't know what they were wearing tonight. They were dressed in white. They looked like they were painting, some person's house. Like they were painters going over to some person's house and painting the walls. I don't know. That's what I thought they looked like tonight. But we saw Sabian and Havoc meet up on the floor to regroup. Havoc and Nick were in the ring. Havoc was sent in the corner from Nick. Hits a neck breaker. Matt did a flip and splash. Matt ended up doing a drop kick on Kip Sabian, and then a flip and neck breaker on Havoc. Then we saw the Butcher and the Blade. They ended up jumping the barricade. They started to talk more shit to Matt and Nick Jackson. And Butcher and the Blade were on the ring apron. And they were distracted by Nick. Havoc ended up smacking Matt in the back with a plastic sign. Butcher and the Blade ended up making their way over to get closer to the Young Bucks. But FTR ended up making their way over. And the Butcher and the Blade ended up backing away. FTR ended up making their way over to the Young Bucks' corner. Sabian ended up punting Matt. And at the end of the match, you had double knee strikes from the Young Bucks to Havoc. So the Young Bucks end up winning the match. And that was that. Post-match, you had the Butcher and the Blade. They tried to attack the Young Bucks. FTR ended up getting involved. And FTR ended up hitting the Goodnight Express on the Butcher and the Blade. And then both the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, FTR, they both landed spike pile drivers on the Blade and Jimmy Havoc. And then we had the Bucks and FTR stare at each other. And, they're teasing that future dream match between, FTR and the Young Bucks. It's going to happen at some point. I can't wait for the day that happens and we get to see this dream match, come true. I would be really excited to see FTR and the Young Bucks. Every wrestling fan wants it, and hopefully we're going to be getting it soon. So I know that FTR, they didn't sign full with AEW yet. I guess this is just a test pattern for them. And then maybe they could go to the Indies, maybe go to New Japan, work some more over there, and then, if they're comfortable, they come back and sign full-time with AEW. I mean, that's what I heard, though. So that was that. So then we went to footage that was shot earlier in the day where we saw Taz and Brian Cage. Taz ended up talking about Moxley screaming and saying that he's going to pop Brian Cage's head off at Fyter Fest. And Taz ended up saying that Moxley wants to be miserable. But that decade was taken decades ago, as Taz said. Cage ended up saying that he wishes Fyter Fest was right now, and that he put Moxley down with the drill claw. And Cage ended up saying, "Who better? Nobody." And Cage and Taz were standing, I guess, behind a like an express path. Maybe it was on a bridge, or maybe it was next to a bridge or on a highway. But more hype for Moxley versus Cage at Fyter Fest. Definitely looking forward to seeing that match. That's definitely going to be a very good match between the both of them. So then we went to Jon Moxley. Moxley ended up saying that he's the man who makes heads roll. But Cage dares to want to take him on. Moxley ended up saying that he has demons, and the only thing that keeps him at bay is hurting them in the ring. So he ended up saying that Cage's path has crossed paths. Moxley ended up saying to Cage, "Beat me if you can." So a little promo from Moxley. And then the commentators end up announcing matches set for next week on Dynamite. So next week on Dynamite, we're going to be seeing Sammy Guevara versus Matt Hardy. So who knows what kind of version of Matt Hardy we're going to get next week. And then we're going to be seeing Brody Lee and Colt Cabana versus Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela. We're going to be seeing a lumberjack match. Wardlow versus Luchasaurus of the Jurassic Express. And we're going to have FTR versus the Natural Nightmares, QT Marshall and Dustin Rhodes. And then Jon Moxley is going to be in action. And Taz is going to be on commentary. So all that was announced for next week's Dynamite. Shaped up to be, another entertaining show next week. And then the commentary team were trying to know where Britt Baker went, after Big Swole ended up driving the other Rolls Royce off with Britt Baker in the back. So Reba ended up using a phone tracker to locate where Britt Baker was taken. We find out that Britt Baker got dumped in a dumpster. And Britt Baker ended up saying to Reba that she's been there for 5 hours. And Reba only told Britt Baker that she's only been an hour. So Baker was pissed. She ended up firing Reba. So Reba ended up asking, that she's free. So Britt Baker ends up rehiring her. So she fired her, and then she rehired her in a minute. Okay. So Baker ended up rehiring Reba, tells her to get out, to get her out of here, of the dumpster. Britt Baker then ended up asking Reba, where's Tony Schiavone? Reba ended up reminding Britt Baker that she put Tony on a friend timeout. So Britt Baker ended up saying to Reba to get Tony Schiavone on the phone. So Britt Baker then asked where Reba was. She ended up telling Britt that she was in the bathroom. So Baker ended up saying that she's got a full-time job. That means no bathroom. So Britt Baker was telling Reba, "Oh, you work for me. You work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week." So Baker then ended up telling the camera that she's going to get Big Swole if it's the last thing she ever does. So Britt Baker then yells at Reba to get her out of the dumpster. So that was basically that. So more hype for Baker versus Big Swole whenever Baker's injury is done. So that's the next thing we're going to be seeing, Britt Baker versus Big Swole. So then we had the main event. Jericho and Guevara versus the best friends, Chucky T and Trent. Of course, Orange Cassidy didn't come out with them. And Matt Hardy was joining on commentary for this match. Matt Hardy, he wasn't, the broken Matt Hardy. He was just normal Matt Hardy. And this was a good main event. And both teams started off and they bowed out on the floor. Trent ended up delivering a spear on Guevara. And then he tossed him into the ring to Chucky T. So Jericho got into the ring. He went to work on Chucky T. And Excalibur on commentary stated that this was the first time that Jericho had been in the ring with the best friends, with Trent and Chucky T. So Jericho was shown choking Chucky T in the corner, ended up tagging in Guevara. Guevara ended up delivering a drop kick and a cork pin on Chucky T. Chucky T ended up kicking out at 1. Matt Hardy on commentary stated that Guevara is the future in AEW. And Hardy on commentary said that Guevara has outgrown Jericho, and that he needs to fly on his own. So Jericho still continued to beat up on Chucky T. Trent got into the ring, beat up on Guevara. He ended up eating a drop kick and a suplex. Trent ended up going with a baseball slide on Jericho. Trent then went for a splash. Jericho ended up hitting Trent in the midsection with Floyd, his baseball bat. And at the end of the match, you had Guevara again thrown into the ropes. Cameraman ended up bumping him, and it distracted Guevara. Trent was able to get the pin on Guevara. So there you go. Best friends, Chucky T and Trent, ended up winning the match. And the best friends now get to face Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega for the AEW World Tag Team Championships at Fyter Fest. So that's going to be a very entertaining match come Fyter Fest with the best friends and Page and Omega. Post-match, you had a camera guy make his way to the stage. He gets in the ring, and it was revealed that the camera guy was Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy was wearing the headphones. He was wearing his hat backwards, wearing an AEW mask. So he ended up taking that all off. Jericho was in the ring, and Cassidy ended up taking his shirt off. He looked very pissed and unhappy. Why not? Why shouldn't he be pissed? Jericho ended up busting him open last week and then hitting him with that bag of oranges. So Cassidy ended up landing a Superman punch on Jericho. Jericho ended up rolling out to the floor. And on commentary, they end up saying that Tony Khan just signed Jericho versus Orange Cassidy at Fyter Fest. So there you go. Jericho and Orange Cassidy, both of them are going to have a match at Fyter Fest. That's going to be a pretty good match with the both of them. Really looking forward to seeing it. And Dynamite went off the air with Chucky T, Trent, and Orange Cassidy. Chucky T and Trent ended up hugging Orange Cassidy. And, you know, I love how the way when they hug, the camera pans back. So now is how Dynamite went off the air. And Orange Cassidy was what had like a black Band-Aid on his head. So, but that was how Dynamite went off the air. But overall, very entertaining Dynamite tonight. Very good show. And this build toward Fyter Fest has been awesome. But anyways, that's it for the Dynamite review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. And definitely give the video a thumbs up. Comment, subscribe. And I will see you all Friday with the SmackDown review. So until that video, I'll see you all later.